Hello everyone, my name is James Kenobi1138 from the Replica Prop Forum, and we're back doing another video. I've actually taken quite a break from doing videos. We had Christmas and the New Year's. I kept thinking I was going to shoot a video. Never got around to it. Actually had the opportunity a couple of days ago, and I don't know, I just didn't feel like shooting a video, I guess, is the best way to put it. So, I don't quite know why, but today I decided to shoot a video. So, you may notice I'm a little off-centered here in the video, and the reason being is I thought we'd talk about my Darth Vader costume a little bit today. I've talked about it in numerous videos in the past, and I have something here to show you. That's why I'm a little off-centered. This is my Darth Vader helmet. Some of this may be stuff you guys already know, anyone who's out there watching, if you're someone who's into Star Wars and into props and things like that. But I thought I'd go over some of the costume, some of the helmet parts. Maybe we'll do costume parts later. The helmet's the only thing I brought with me today. So this is my Darth Vader mask. Helmet. We call it a Darth Vader helmet. Now, a couple of terminology. Well, right off the bat, you may be looking... Boy, this thing's heavy. You may be looking at this thing and you're like, oh my god, that thing is so big. Why is that thing so big? It wasn't that big in the movie. It actually was this big in the movie. The actor who plays Darth Vader in the original trilogy, David Prowse, is a very big man, very big guy. He's over 6 feet tall. I think there's some debate if he's 6'3" or 6'5" or 6'7", but he's well over 6 feet tall. And prior to being cast as Darth Vader, of course, he was a champion bodybuilder, award-winning bodybuilder, a fitness expert, trainer, boxer. So he was a very big guy. The mask was sculpted by Brian Muir, I believe is how you say his last name, who's working as a sculptor at the time, was tasked with sculpting this helmet. It was sculpted over a live cast of David Prowse. There is quite a bit of padding on the inside on the original trilogy ones to make it fit right, but it is to scale. When you watch the movie, Darth Vader's a big guy. He's taller than everybody else, even when he is next to somebody tall, like an Imperial officer in the beginning of the Star Wars movie, who's a very tall gentleman also. Darth Vader is taller, he has those broad shoulders. The helmet doesn't seem as big because all of Darth Vader is big. If I put this on right now, I'd look like a bobblehead with a big old head on my tiny little body, but when you have the shoulder armor and the capes and everything else, it is the correct size. Now, so terminology. When we talk about this helmet, online, anywhere, on forums, the helmet is actually two pieces. You have what's called the dome, and you have the face mask, or face plate. I think we usually call it face mask, or the face. The dome, the main components of the dome is the center ridge, the eyebrows, and sometimes people will call this the flare or the skirt of the dome or something like that. On the helmet, on the face, of course, you've got the lenses, you've got the inner eyebrows that you can't see on mine, you've got the eye bridge or the bridge, you have the cheeks, which are these areas right here, you have the nose, which the sculptor Brian actually put his thumb in here as he sculpted it. It fits his thumb perfectly. You have the grill, or the mouth. It's called the grill because it kind of looks like a car grill here. The grill or the mouth. These are the tusks, kind of like elephant tusks, which are attached to what are the parts of the helmet that are called the tubes. So those are the tubes. You have the chin vent, which is this piece down here, and this is called the neck. I think that's all the pieces. Yes, most of the major pieces anyway. My helmet, let's see, of course the original helmet was sculpted, they started with clay, it was sculpted in clay. Once it got to a certain point, they used plaster to make a mold. They removed that plaster mold and then filled it with plaster to make a plaster positive. And the reason why they did that was so they could go in and sharpen and make things really flat and really smooth. And then another mold was made of that, and the actual helmet, and of course in the movies, was fiberglass like this one. They used that mold of the plaster master to make the fiberglass masks, helmets and faceplates. And then of course they were painted. Now, one of the most interesting things I personally think about the helmet, because it's something that I did not notice for years and years and years and years and years of watching the movie, was that the helmet is actually has a two-tone paint job. Originally, based on the script, on George Lucas's script, The helmet was black, the armor was black, he was a black Sith warrior. Well, the problem was with the film technology at the time, the black just washed out and everything looked very dark. And with film exposures and things like that, there was no way to really bring out all the detail. So what they very cleverly did was they took the helmet that was already painted black and they went in. It's going to be hard for you to see because of the lighting in this particular room. But on set, they went and they painted like, this is black, this should be silver though. This is silver, that's black, this is silver, that's silver, this is black, that's silver. It's black here and silver, you know what I mean? Like they did like a Harlequin paint job so that parts of it are black and parts of it are silver. And they did the same thing with the armor. Now they just used a brush and they just dry brushed the paint on kind of a gunmetal silver color. So parts up here in the eyebrows are actually the gunmetal silver. These cheeks, this one's silver, that one's black. So it kind of, varied the look of the helmet, made it stand out on screen a little bit better. It's like I said, I'm looking at my setup and I can tell that it's hard to see. I think it's easiest to see. You can see that there's a black cheek and a silver cheek. So my particular helmet, there are a lot of people I know who have screen-used helmets. They have helmets that at some point the original helmet was molded in England, then it was brought to the United States, and Rick Baker's studio in California actually made a mold, which is, I have an EFX. The EFX prop company was able to make helmets from that actual mold. I have one, maybe I'll show it off as a show and tell. And so there are several copies, people have copies of these original helmets from the original molds. My helmet, at some point, and I don't really know when, I think it was in the late 80s or early 90s, or maybe it was even in the 70s, I really don't know. The Halloween company Don Post, which is no longer in business, Don Post they were given an original helmet at some point, either of the film helmet itself or a copy made from one of those, like Rick Baker's mold, and they made their own mold and they released, I don't want to say plastic, they were helmets that were made of a very thick vinyl. It was as rigid as plastic, but if you put it in a hot car on a hot summer day, it would like melt and flatten out. Like it was a vinyl material, not actually a rigid plastic material. My helmet I bought from two different sources. The faceplate I purchased from a gentleman on the RPF. Mine's made of fiberglass. My fiberglass helmet was made by someone taking one of those vinyl plastic Don Post masks, making a mold of it, and then making a fiberglass copy, which is going to be a lot more durable. Obviously the details got a little softened. It's another generation, a couple generations away from a film helmet, but most of the proportions are correct. The asymmetry is correct. The dome, which mine is a little off in size, it's a little bit bigger than it should be. Somebody started with an original dome of some generation, did some work to it, I'm not quite sure how much, eventually got it to where they wanted it, made a mold, and then started making fiberglass domes. So I married the two together to make my final helmet. One of the things I wanted to show you was the inside of my helmet, which you're not going to be able to see very well, so I brought a light with me, not a lightsaber, just a flashlight. If for some reason you're overseas, this would be a torch to you. We'll see how much we can actually see in here with this light. My helmet, a lot of guys use foam. I opted for a hard hat liner. I opted to use a hard hat liner, which is permanently affixed inside my helmet, because I didn't want the foam on my head because I knew it'd be hot, I knew I'd be sweating. I wanted the sweat to be able to kind of leave my head and leave, to cool me down. So there's a mounted hard hat liner in there. Oh, there we go, that's a little bit better. There's a mounted hard hat liner in there. If you look here, you'll see where the eyes are, I have some screen put in, some screen material. It's actually, I think, speaker grill material. It's a fine metal mesh. Now the reason why I did that was, my lenses are reddish in color. I don't know if you can see, well, maybe we can put the light on the inside. Maybe that would do the trick. My lenses are reddish in color, which is actually not accurate. The lenses in the movie were at some point originally a very light amber color, and there were some issues because, of course, when you film movies, you have very bright lights. The light would go through the lens, reflect off David Prowse's skin, the actor, and you could see through the lenses. So at some point, they went to a darker amber color. I was under the belief for a really long time, as most of us were, that was for Star Wars: A New Hope. We were under the impression that for The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, they switched to a smoked gray lens. I was recently told by someone who is a Vader expert, someone who is in the know, someone who probably knows more about Darth Vader than anybody, that for Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, the lenses did stay an amber color. They did use an amber plastic. It was not the same color as the one they used in Star Wars. I'm not sure what the difference, if there was window screen material added. I don't know if it was just a darker amber color. I have no idea. So my lenses are red. Now the reason why there is a mesh behind them, when the mesh material is right next to your eye, because it's made up of fine holes, you know, it's a screen, it's a mesh, you can see right through it. But when someone goes to take my picture with their camera, and they use their camera flash, then as the light passes through, instead of seeing my eyes, all you see is this mesh material. And it just makes the eye look red. The light goes through the lens, hits the mesh, which is black, reflects a little bit of the light, and gives kind of a nice reddish orangey glow color, but it doesn't show my eyeballs. Usually I've mentioned this before, whenever there's a big convention, you know, MegaCon, San Diego Comic-Con, DragonCon, I always go looking. I like to see all the different costumes that guys and girls have, and specifically I'll use Darth Vader as a keyword because I like to kind of see what everyone's costumes are looking like. Nothing irritates me more than seeing a pretty good Darth Vader costume, or even an excellent Darth Vader costume, and you can see eyeballs behind the lenses because they just have lenses. The way I have it set up between the dark color of the lens itself and the mesh, when I have this helmet on, my visibility is not fantastic. It's good at best. It's better when I'm in a very well-lit room, like a convention center, which is, you know, my costume is very ideal for a convention center. I can't imagine how the actors, both David Prowse and the stuntman, Bob Anderson, handled things. I know that when Bob Anderson wore the costume for the dueling, you know, the cheeks were cut out and there was some clear plastic put in and things like that to make it a little easier to see, because it's really hard to see in this helmet. But the sets, as well lit as they were, you know, like Return of the Jedi, he's under the gantry, it's very dark, he's in shadows, things like that. It is very difficult to see through this helmet. But anyway, it's very frustrating to me when I see pictures of people who've taken the time to make pretty good Darth Vader costumes, and they don't have screens, and you can, every time you get their picture taken, you can see their eyeballs. It's kind of frustrating. It totally ruins you. I mean, I've seen some where the lens material is such a light color that whenever a picture's taken with a camera flash, I mean, it just looks like there's no lens at all. You can practically see the color of their skin and the color of their eye. It's so thin. But it does make visibility better when you're wearing the costume. So I have this this mesh material in here by the eye, and let's get the flashlight back on. I have this mesh material in here by the eyes, right up in there. You might be able to see I have two fans. Originally when I made this costume for a couple of years, I only had one fan in there. I had one that was more or less right under my eye. It was right here, and it was supposed to blow air on my face to help keep it a little cool, and also to defog my lenses. One of the things that you learn wearing a Darth Vader, let me get my torch real quick. One of the things you learn from wearing a Darth Vader costume, a Stormtrooper costume, I'm sure it's the same for Halo and other costumes like that where you have a helmet with a visor, is that as you sweat, as you're hot in this costume and you start to sweat, you fill your helmet with moisture. And it immediately fogs your lenses. I mean, it doesn't matter if you are changing in January outside in your costume, you get a little warm putting your costume on and putting all the pieces on, and you begin to sweat. And because almost all of your body is covered except for your face, because I have a thing that goes over that keeps my hair out of the way, and just my face, kind of like a ski mask, balaclava balaclava, I think it's how you pronounce it. Even the only thing is exposed. So that's the only place the sweat can get out. It immediately fills the inside of your helmet with sweat, which immediately starts to fog your lenses. My fan did a pretty good job for most of the time, but I installed a secondary fan, which is a little bit lower down, but at the angle that it's at, it actually blows air almost straight up, which I was worried about for a while because I was afraid it was going to tickle my nose and it was going to tickle my contacts because I wear contacts, but that it hasn't been an issue. I've worn it a couple of times. Here in the back of the helmet, you can see right here, I have an elastic strap. The elastic strap goes, let me set this down. The elastic strap goes, when I put the helmet on, I put my hands inside the neck, and I sort of pull the elastic strap out a little bit, and then as I put the helmet on this way, it goes from one side of the neck to the other side of the neck, so that it actually goes right on the back of my neck. Now, I used to have, and it's thick, it's like 2.5 inch thick elastic, black elastic. I used to use Velcro. When I originally made my helmet, I fiberglassed in Velcro on both sides. So the logic was I would put my helmet on, and then I would do the hook side and I would do the loop side, and it would stay closed. And the reason why you do that is if you lean forward, you don't want your helmet to swing forward. You need something to pin it to your neck to keep it, so as you turn your head, it stays with you. The problem I had was with the shoulder armor and the length of my arms, I got to a point where I can hold the helmet and I can get the helmet on, and I can even touch the sides of the neck. But getting my hands to the back of the neck was a real struggle. It was really hard to do that. So I would have to have someone, Velcro it and unvelcro it for me. The elastic has worked phenomenally well. It has been a lifesaver. When I go to pull it off, I can kind of get it going, I sort of work it off, and then it just, it's elastic, it just expands and kind of pulls my headgear up a little bit, but it's a small price to pay, very small price to pay. One thing I did differently in my costume that I see a lot of people do, it's kind of hard to see in here, let's turn it up this way, is my batteries. My battery packs, I have a couple here in the back, I don't know if you can see them. Well, let's get this out of the way. I've got a couple battery packs here along the inside of the dome, up here. I can't see if you can see this, so I won't be able to see it until I get it on my computer, but there's a couple battery packs there. And then there's a couple of battery packs that are here in the dome itself, in the very bottom. You might even see some Duracells in there, right there. Now, one of the decisions that I made when I made this helmet was a lot of people use small, and what I use also, small CPU fans, the little cooling fans that you find in a computer equipment, and they're normally 12 volts. Sometimes you get, there's a range, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 18 volts, and that's how much voltage is required to run your fan. A lot of people I know will get a 12 volt fan, and they will wire two 9 volt batteries, which is 18 volts, but the fan still runs just fine. A little bit more voltage, it just makes the motor run a little bit faster. When I originally, before I completed my Darth Vader costume, I had my Stormtrooper costume. And when I had my Stormtrooper costume, I have a fan in there, and I originally used two 9 volt batteries because that's what everybody uses. The problem is, I ran out of juice in the middle of an event I was trooping, and I couldn't stay cool, and my lenses were fogging up. Luckily, I wasn't walking around. It was an event at a museum, and we just had to stand there, and it was a charity benefit. People would come up, and they'd get their picture taken. We didn't have to walk around or anything. So the good news is I just had to stand. I didn't have to walk around or do anything. But it made me reevaluate the 9 volt battery situation. So when I made this helmet, I did a test, and I originally, with my one fan, I have two battery boxes. Each battery box holds 4 AA batteries. So that battery box is 6 volts. I have the other battery box is 6 volts. Of course, they're wired together to provide 12 volts for a 12 volt fan. I did a test. I put fresh batteries in. It was 10 o'clock at night. I turned them on. The fan came on. I went to bed. I woke up the next morning, 8 or 8:30, whatever in the morning. The fan was still going. It had gone all night long. So I decided that I was going to stick with the the AA batteries as opposed to 9-volt batteries. So the 2 battery boxes in the back are the original ones, which power 1 fan. The 2 battery boxes that are basically sitting on top of my head are for the 2nd fan. So if for some reason I had a bad battery, or I don't know, one of the fans just ran faster than the other one, or so pulled more current than the other one, I still have the other fans, kind of a backup system. One of the things you will notice is that there is not a sound system in this helmet. My current setup is my chest armor has an amplifier in it, and the batteries are in the back straps of the chest box. And I have a microphone that I wear, and it runs down under my armor and plugs into that amplifier. There's also a breathing loop. I'm contemplating jettisoning that as my vocals and just having it run the breathing loop. I have the speakers hidden in my armor, under my armor, so you can't see them, but you can hear them. I've just had issues with my voice, the microphone in the helmet, and trying to get it to everything to play all at the same time. I actually need to go in and rewire it. The last time I wore my Darth Vader costume, which was at the Dallas Comic Con in 2013, I had a problem with one of my battery packs, had a problem with one of the wires. I'm not sure exactly what the problem was because that was 7 months ago and I still haven't investigated it yet. Got to the event, got everything turned on. As I was kind of moving my body in the costume, the sound was cutting in and out, and it cut out completely. And I had to walk the entire floor with no breathing sound and no voice amplification. I have a setup that I can take out of something. It's an aftermarket product, which I believe I will be able to build a small box for a speaker that I can put in here, and I should be able to fit the batteries in here, and I should also be able to fit, because the soundboard is very small. It's a very small board, it's a pretty small amplifier. It does have a voice modulator in it to deepen my voice a little bit and make me sound a little bit more like Darth Vader. I'm still not 100% sure where exactly. I'm pretty sure I'm going to put the speaker right here. It'll come out the mouth. I'm hoping it might amplify it a little bit more just naturally. I've contemplated putting the speaker here in the back because this shape will kind of help the sound come out a little bit. But I'm not 100% sold on whether or not I'm going to do that or not. I still need to investigate it. It's nice to put your helmet on and not have any wires, running anywhere. But that's something I'm contemplating doing. Wearing this thing is like being in the Iron Maiden, I'm not going to lie. I've talked about it in a previous video. What are we at, 22 minutes? I've talked about it in a previous video. I do suffer from a lot of cosplay anxiety. One of the things about wearing this costume is that it is very large, it is very heavy. This helmet is pretty heavy. The armor is heavy, the leather suit is heavy, the wool capes are heavy. I refuse to wear platform shoes, but because of my height, of course, I have some inner boot lifts I've talked about in the previous video. While they make me taller, they also kind of make me a little bit unstable. I do want to go back at some point and reinvent, because I made my own boot lifts, and I know I can make them a little bit better, make them a little bit more comfortable. I want to go back and reinvent my boot lifts, maybe to make them a little bit more comfortable. But I suffer from a lot of anxiety in this costume because if I know I'm going to be by myself, it is a little hard to get dressed. Because of the cost, the expense of this costume, I'm always a little worried about something tearing or ripping or breaking, especially if I'm changing at the event. I get all the way there, I get all the way dressed, and then something breaks. I actually had this tusk broke off and it's been repaired. So I'm always a little worried about that happening. And then when I'm actually in the suit, of course, it's very hot. It's very hard to walk around because of my boot lifts. It's very hard to see anything. And once you get out in the convention center, everybody mobs you and everybody wants your picture. They want a picture of you, or they want to take a picture with you. So it's hard to get anywhere. It's hard to walk anywhere. It's the only thing it's like being a celebrity. It's like being famous. I'm not famous. This guy's famous. But I look like him today. So I get swarmed as I'm walking around, which does make it a little difficult, because if I'm trying to get to the bathroom, if I'm trying to get somewhere to meet someone, it's hard to go 5 feet, 10 feet without somebody stopping me and wanting to take my picture. So once I get all suited up and I feel really good about the costume, and I feel really good that everything's on right and looks good, my anxiety goes down. Of course, my problem is I'm a nervous sweater. I'm the type of person that if I'm nervous or anxious about something, my body temperature rises, I start sweating. So as I'm getting dressed in the costume, I'm getting more and more anxious and nervous, which only is making my body temperature increase, making me sweat, which is compounded with the helmet and the leather and the wool and everything. I love wearing this costume in February and December and January, not so much in July and August. So it gives me a lot more anxiety as I'm getting hotter and hotter and hotter in the costume. So, but once I get all the way dressed and I get to the event, I'm fine. I feel great. I love people's reactions. I love being able to take pictures with people and kids, and people always want funny photos, and women want to give me Darth Vader a little smooch, and people hand me their babies to hold, and so it really is a ton of fun. But I still have some anxiety from it. But anyway, so my Darth Vader helmet, I think I've given you most of the ins and outs on it. It is a beautiful helmet. I do plan to do a show off at some point with my EFX helmet. Maybe I'll have them both. We can, show the differences in the two helmets. But in the meantime, this is the one I troop with. This is my trooping helmet. I hope to get some mods done to it pretty soon. And there's a convention in February, like the first or second week of February. I don't know if I'm going to be wearing this or not. I kind of want to, but then I kind of don't want to. So we'll see. But anyway, so Darth Vader helmet, this is the guy, and I was wanting to talk a little bit about having your picture taken in the Darth Vader costume. I think maybe we'll save that for the next one. So anyway, I really appreciate you watching this video. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I do hope you will. I hope you will share it with friends and family and people that you think might be interested in Star Wars. I know I'm not obviously a hot girl, which their YouTube channels always have billions of viewers, and I'm not even really that interesting to listen to, but I appreciate you watching my channel. I appreciate you coming back every week and watching another video. It has been a little hard to find the energy to want to continue to do these when I've shared it with as many people as I can, and I haven't gotten much of a response. I would love for people to have a takeaway every week of something from one of my video blogs, a takeaway about cosplay, takeaway from props, takeaway about costuming, a takeaway about sci-fi, Star Wars, something. So if you're watching this video, I do want to give you a heartfelt thank you, because you're the only people watching. But I would really love it if you would share this video or any of my videos that you find interesting with anyone that you think might find them interesting, and encourage them to subscribe. It'd be nice to have a couple more viewers. So anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much, and I will check you next time.